welcome to Unbound Wisdom. Today we are speaking about the concept of soul mission or soul calling, light worker or starseed mission here on Earth, on the Earth plane at this time. These are kind of buzzwords, but I also can understand the draw that many of us feel, especially being incarnated right now, to find where we fit in, find where our purpose is, find where our soul is calling us so that we can contribute at the highest level to humanity. This is something that I understand quite well. There was a number of years during my life where I had awakened. I had followed my intuitive guidance to take stuff off my plate in my 3D job, we could say. My guides were quite adamant about it at one point, and so I listened. I actually closed a few businesses that we owned, and had a period of 2 or 3 years probably where I was like, okay guys, now what? I took all this off my plate, restructured our life such that we reduced our bills so that we could accommodate the lack of income. And I felt like I was just in this holding pattern for a while. But as I look back, I realized that I was still in a preparatory phase, so to speak. I was collecting many tools for my metaphysical toolbox, first of all. And I was also doing a lot of inner healing work for my own self. And I now realize the value of that time period in my life. Though at the time it was highly frustrating because I felt like I listened, I did what I was intuitively guided to do, and now what, right? What am I supposed to be doing here? What am I doing here right now? So it was a quite valuable period of my life, and now I know that it was there for a reason because of the expansion that I received during that time. The things that I learned, the lessons that I learned, as well as the modalities that I picked up so that I could now employ during this next phase of my life. So it prompted me to make this video because I often hear people talk about, I want to know what my soul mission is. I want to know, what is my soul's calling? How do I find out? And oftentimes when I'm doing a records reading, these are common questions that come up. And from my experience, this is really the case from my experience across the board. The soul mission, soul purpose, light worker mission on Earth at this point is a broad theme. When it is shown to me on behalf of a client, it is almost always a broad theme. And I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example for my own self so that it makes a little bit more sense. As I ask what my divine mission is on Earth at this time, I was shown an image of the Lady of the Lake, which is an Arthurian legend. And I didn't actually even know at the time what the legend was. I've since investigated that thoroughly because I was finally shown what I'm supposed to be doing. So yes, of course I dug in truly a fashion to get to the root of what they were trying to describe to me, what my mission is. And the truth is, the big part of this legend anyway, it's an archetype for the idea of helping people find their power again. The idea of resurrecting and rebirth, because in the Arthurian legend, Arthur actually throws his sword into the lake, and the Lady of the Lake is who magically retrieves it for him, symbolically giving his power back to him, reminding him of his own innate power. So as a metaphor for what my soul mission is, I am to be helping people to rediscover their own power within. But when you look at that, it is such a broad concept that there's not one certain way to do it. So this is across the board what I find for clients, whether the metaphor is as a role of healer, whether the metaphor is a role of a teacher, or a mentor, right? A leader. That all of these umbrella type archetypes underneath the umbrella, in order to follow your soul's calling, there's so many different things that you could possibly be doing to fulfill that role. So for myself, if I want to be helping people find their power again, I realize that for so many years, decades of my 3D job, many of the tasks that I performed during that job accomplished that same task. I worked as a nutrition coach for a long time, and I still actually have a few clients, but when I cut back, then I stepped away from that role quite a bit. But on some level, I was still helping people uncover their own power, because they were learning what to eat to have a healthy body, or to be the best athlete they could be, or to really bring the power back within. Because lots of times people would come to me with certain, behavioral problems around food, or their relationship with food was not optimal. So they would come to me in order to heal that relationship with food, which in a sense gives them their power back, right? I could be helping people find their power by being a basketball coach for kids, right? And instilling in them their love for the sport, their love for athletics, their love for pushing themselves past where they thought they could push themselves, like reaching higher levels than they ever imagined. I mean, you can think about it in that sense. There's a million and one ways that I could be still fulfilling my soul's calling. It doesn't have to be in this spiritual realm. Now, I personally love what I do, because I really love helping people unravel what the story of their soul is. I love helping them unpack certain trauma from past life or from this life, so that they can really, really, really begin to embody more of their own soul essence and find their own power again, right? I absolutely love what I'm doing right now, but what I'm saying is lots of different ways to accomplish the same task. So as starseeds and lightworkers, it's really easy to get hung up on the idea of, I have one mission and I just have to uncover it. I just have to search for this one mission. And that, in my experience in working with people, has never been the case. There is not one holy grail of a mission that we're all supposed to be going for. What I have found is that it's an umbrella, an overencompassing theme that the person can fulfill their soul mission by doing, right? So keep in mind that you don't need to work in a quote unquote spiritual field or a metaphysical field in order to walk your soul mission, in order to walk your soul's path and fulfill your soul mission. If you're a teacher, maybe you work in a school setting. Or if you're a healer, if that is your over-encompassing umbrella as your soul's mission, you might work in a health clinic, right? I actually know some very powerful light workers who one works in a daycare. She teaches preschool kids, and she's an incredible light. I know light workers who are chiropractors. I know light workers who are nurses. And that is highly, highly, highly valuable. It doesn't mean that we have to work in energy medicine or as Reiki practitioners or in any of the spiritual fields. We don't need to be spiritual teachers. We can teach preschool and fulfill our soul's mission. So just keep that in mind as well. So this leads me into the topic of what it means to become an instrument for the divine. Which, when we are trying to work towards our soul's calling, fulfill our soul's calling, fulfill our light worker mission, however we want to put it, it means becoming an instrument for the divine. And what does that mean exactly? Being an instrument for the divine comes from a place of ultimate surrender. It means showing up authentically in the world, devoid of conditioning, and drawing as much of our true soul essence into our vessel as possible. It means continually working towards integrating our ego self with who we are on a soul level. This results in us not only being able to embody the most light so that we can anchor light to the earth plane, the higher frequencies to the earth right now and to the collective, but it also acts as a catalyst to magnetize us towards that which we might perceive to be our mission or our soul's calling. So what I'm submitting to you here is that in order to be magnetized toward your soul's calling, we first have to do our very best to become an instrument for the divine. because that is how we will find our soul's calling. That is how we will find our mission. As we clear out that conditioning and the emotional responses and as much trauma as we possibly can from this life or another life, as we heal all of that, look in the shadows and heal them, that's when our mission is magnetized towards us, because we are embodying more of our own true soul essence, embodying more light on the earth plane, and pulling our soul's mission to us. And we can recognize it a lot easier at that point as well. So I do believe that our mission as light workers are rooted in the act of creation. And what I mean by that, creation meaning using ourselves as instruments for the divine to bring something to fruition into humanity that wasn't there before, that wouldn't have been there without our own unique spin, our own unique energy put into it, our own unique thoughts or emotions, whatever we're building. And it could be, like I said, a basketball team. It could be a youth basketball team, a youth after-school basketball team. The coach brings a level of creation to that team because the energy of the team wouldn't be the same without the coach, right? So it could be creating something like making a documentary, or it could be making beautiful, divinely inspired artwork. Whatever your jam is, I really do believe that as light workers, we're being asked to use our own creative powers to bring forth something in the world that is not currently here and would not exist without us, right? As individuals, each of us as individuals. As we are pulled by spirit, we almost always experience a flow. It's like the universe is seeming to be lining everything up for us. So as we become instruments for the divine, we are aligned, heart, soul, and vessel. The universe lays things out for us so that we can step into our calling. It happens across the board. So I really wanted to dive into, what does it mean to create? What does it take for us to be creator beings? For us to realize the creator beings we are and to actually take action towards that. I recognize that there is some divine creative spark that is ignited within those that are walking their soul's path, that are walking their soul's mission, that are headed in the direction that spirit wants them to go in. There is a creative spark. It is very unique. It is very powerful. So I wanted to investigate this concept of the divinely inspired creative spark. And I looked in the records, my own records. And this is straight out of that. Amidst a calm, centered disposition and a conscious connection to source, in conjunction with heart-centered joy, the spark is ignited. It is then through action that creativity is expressed and continues to flow as long as disposition remains calm and grounded, and we are as instruments for the divine, and we remain aligned with heart-centered action. So 2 huge pieces in this. The first is action, because we can have as many intuitive hits and intuitive inspiration as there are hours in a day. However, if we do not take action on it, nothing is created. So it's really beautiful how the divine feminine, which is inspiration, and the divine masculine, which is heart-centered action, are combined. They're married in this act of creation. And it is something that, as divine creator beings, they both have to be present, the masculine and feminine. And we have to not only recognize the intuitive hits, we have to be brave enough and confident enough in our own abilities and in spirit to take action on those. Because without action, there is no creativity, right? It's just a cool idea. Nothing comes of it. So huge that we think about that action piece. And the second part of that I found interesting was the joy component. So I wanted to investigate more, as the records had pointed out. In conjunction with heart-centered joy, the spark is ignited. So it seemed like joy was a huge piece of divine creation for us as light workers. I investigated what joy is, this esoteric and spiritual truth behind the concept of joy. And this is what I got. Joy is an important piece of the human experience because it is the energetic expression of pure love. It is love with a kick to it, or love with a punch behind it. It is love in action. Yeah, that's big. It is love in action. It is a critical piece of divinely inspired creation because joy is heart-based. And that means that which is created from a place of joy carries a frequency of expansion and activation. And that's what makes it divine creation. I'm going to read that last line again. That which is created from a place of joy carries a frequency of expansion and activation. And that's what makes it divine creation. Expansion and activation. Genuine joy is found in simplicity. It is not complex. It is when we feel that expansive love bursting forth from our body such that it cannot be contained. It is important to note that joy can only be experienced in the present moment. So we must slow down. As humans, we have to slow down to experience joy. We must maintain awareness. Not being caught up in our head and our thoughts, not being out of body, floating around out of body. We have to be aware in order to experience genuine joy. It is not in our mind that we experience joy, but in our bodies, our physical vessels. So we must also be diligent about staying in the body. Joy is innocent, it is pure, and it has no attachment to outcome. It is not dependent upon any outside factors. So I have to share this really quickly. This was an amazing piece of wisdom that was shared with me as I was beginning to start my journey into sharing my channel with everybody and also just sharing more in general on social media. A friend of mine said, you have to find joy in the creation and not joy in the outcome. And that's the best piece of advice that I ever could have had at that point, because there was still that human part of me that was focused on, well, am I putting out stuff that people are going to like? Are they going to think I'm crazy? Are they, there was that huge part of me that was still putting up resistance to creation because I was so focused on what the outcome might be instead of focusing on the joy in the present moment with what I was creating. And once she told me that, everything shifted. Everything shifted. And the expansion that I have witnessed as a result has been immense. And I really do feel the guidance from spirit when I can stay in the joy of the moment, in the joy of the creation, in the joy of what I'm bringing forth to you guys. So in closing, we can hear our souls calling when we get really quiet and listen. And I would just ask you to examine, what do you do that contributes to humanity and lights you up? So this could be any kind of contribution whatsoever. This could be a barista at a coffee shop. But if you show up in heart-centered joy every single day and you are a beautiful light to the customers that come in, and you love it, it lights you up, you love that exchange, that's creation. That's divinely led creation, and you are contributing to humanity in that instance. So on any level, what lights you up? Where you can actually contribute to society and humanity and to the collective consciousness. At any level, is there anything that you're doing that you do that lights you up? What can you seemingly do endlessly and not feel depleted? Now, this is not to say that we should work tirelessly with no breaks and not take care of ourselves, of course. Not overgive or overcompensate for other people. Of course, we need to honor our own selves as well. But there are certain activities I've noticed that I can do, that I can work diligently on, and I never feel depleted. I only feel re-energized. That's a huge sign that that is something that's working towards your soul's calling. So in doing so, are you replenishing your own energy reserves? these can be huge clues of what your soul's mission, your soul's calling might be. You also can ask in a meditative state. You can, if you have a great connection with your guides, you can ask them to show you as well. I personally love if I can have a picture that I use as somewhat of an allegory. You can just say, I would really like to be shown what my soul's mission might be in this lifetime. And you may well be shown a picture that you can somewhat apply, like I explained what my picture was at one point, that you could somehow apply to your life to really figure out the clues on what you are to be doing in this lifetime. However, even if you don't do that, you can actually find out just by following the things that light you up. So with that, hope this was helpful for you guys today. As always, I'm always available to help if you need anything at all. You can find all my information in the comment section below. And I really hope that you have a wonderful day. Until next time.